This is Rob Stone from Fox Sports.
Hey guys, this is Cole Liker.
Hi, I'm Neil Collins.
You are listening to the Unused Substitute.
The Unused Substitute.
And you're listening to the Unused Substitutes.
Get off the bench!
Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood, I got a problem and it's complicated. Going through change that I just can't ignore the signs. Hear them now, it's so loud it hurts. Hear me growl, hear me howl when the full moon
On throw, ball's gonna bounce down, it's free in the box. Bicycle kick! Goal! Rowdies! What a play! What a shot! And it's 1-0 Rowdies!
Hear me growl, you see me run, you see me jump. Try to fight, but I emerge with the fight in hand. You better watch out, it's gonna take more than what you got. All eyes are on the end, the silence is deafening. You're so helpless against this full moon. Don't ever say I didn't warn you, because I came to play, came to play, I came to play, came to play, I came to play, came to play, I came to
Georgie Wristoff will go around the bagels! He takes the bagel off!
Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. You're listening to a special edition of Late Night for people my age with the Unused Substitutes live on Radio St. Pete from the Shamrock Pub in Sarasota. We are part of the Beautiful Game Network and sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. My name is Matt, and for the last time this regular season, and I'm going to assume there's no Wednesday postseason games, I am sitting next to a man who still doesn't use night mode on his phone. I've discovered from watching him look at his phone tonight. You saw him on TV earlier if you were watching Ray's All Access. Steven, beside what we just spent 2 hours watching, how you doing?
Well, I'm not standing in an offside. I'm not. Is it working? Hello?
Yeah, you should be good.
I should be good. That's interesting. I can't hear myself. Well, what I was going to say for the joke of the night was that I'm not standing in an offsides position.
You would be unlucky in that situation. I'm still not 100% sure if your mic worked. Try this again. We were doing this and it was working.
I mean, it was working a second ago, but.
Now.
Hey.
There we go.
Hi, Matt.
Your volume was really low. That's why.
You're not the greatest of executive producers. This is why your wife had to bail you out.
This is yes, and I guess I should mention this. My this episode tonight goes to credit goes to our executive producer for the evening, my wife. Yes, you're saying it in your head in a Borat voice right now. My wife, who brought me my headphones when I remembered that I forgot them after you remembered that you forgot yours.
And thankfully, I brought a computer because you forgot your computer too.
No, you have the better computer. Like I don't even really have one that I can bring down here. All right, so we've got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. We decided in the interest of our sanity and everyone else's, instead of doing the full good, bad, ugly, because there was nothing but bad and ugly, we're going to do just what we call gut reaction. Steven, can you sum up your gut reaction to Ottawa 1, Tampa Bay 0, in front of a metric sellout at TD Place in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada?
When does Ottawa join the Canadian Premier League?
Not
that
soon
happens,
enough.
That happens, we can just do it right now, right? Like, we just say, get out, be
Yes.
done with it. You don't count for playoffs.
Thank you, Ottawa.
Just go away.
Bye-bye.
Nobody likes you.
Take your crappy referees with you.
For what it's worth, a couple hours ago I predicted an Ottawa victory.
That's because you hate the team. You realize this.
This is why I went by pessimist for the longest time on Twitter. Because
You were on TV tonight as fan of the year, and here you are.
Shut up.
You spoke this into existence.
I
warned you about this.
I do this all the time. I didn't really feel good about this game because it's Ottawa, and everybody we suck at Ottawa.
I'm drinking.
We suck. We suck at Ottawa. That's what matters. And we knew there would be a lot of squad rotation tonight.
Yeah.
There was tons of rotation on the field tonight.
I honestly wondered if Neil was even going to coach the game. But seeing the post-game fireworks, I definitely know that Neil was present at the stadium. I look forward to talking to him this weekend. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had a game this past weekend where we got a draw, so we finally didn't lose. Like, we didn't lose 2 in a row, or we didn't.
We haven't lost 3 in a row now.
We haven't lost 3 in a row, but we were able to kind of keep a bit of a streak going this weekend, and then of course tonight happens, and
So the Rowdies could have clinched a playoff spot with a victory tonight. Did not get it. However, we are watching the last 15 seconds of regular time in Atlanta United 2 leading Charleston Battery 3-1. And if our math is correct, when this game is over, the Rowdies will have clinched a playoff spot by virtue of Charleston's loss, because Charleston would be able to match us on points but would not be able to catch us in victories, which is the first tiebreaker.
Well, that means we're playing postseason. And at the rate
What spot we're going to end up in, I don't know.
And at the rate we're going, it'll be a great away game, and life is great.
I promise we will not be in one of the play-in spots. I'm pretty sure that's impossible at this point.
Well, let's see here. Louisville's in 7th at 47 points. There's only a 6 point difference there.
9 points behind us. We still have to go to Louisville, so there's a
6 points. 6 points.
I keep thinking we're on 56, not 53.
Yeah, we're only on 53.
I'm trying to will positivity into this world, Steven. You, however...
Well, now we know who has the stronger wills.
You're the guy that when you, since we were talking about horror movies and scary stuff before we went on, you're the guy with the Necronomicon saying the wrong words. Bringing Deadites into this world.
I'm a cultist. That's what you need to understand is that...
That's why we hired you.
I'm a cultist. See, there it is. There it is. I am summoning the power of Azeroth through my veins right now.
Are you a thuggy? Are you going to reach in? Well, you kind of already did. Reached into the chest of Rowdies fans tonight and ripped our hearts out.
No, I just sent your brains into the stars.
Yeah,
See,
fooled you. I don't
go.
have any brains.
There you go. This was just a really bad game tonight. I don't want to even talk about it.
No.
The players did not link up. We could not pass the ball to each other. Even though we're wearing the brightest uniforms in the freaking league, we couldn't even find each other.
Okay, I will say, there was one good out of this, was trying to listen to the Canadian announcers pronounce fluorescent.
Oh, and Steenberger.
Steenberger. He can get Siage, which I don't know if we've gotten right half the year, but he cannot get Steenberger.
That was just, I don't... Why do we have to play in Ottawa at all? Why does anybody have to play in Ottawa? Why is Ottawa in the USL? These are all important questions.
It won't matter after this season. They're gone. I believe they're gone. It's not announced. It's not official, but I believe they're going to head to CPL.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is tonight it was a lot of players that haven't played together much in positions that are not their normal positions, and it looked like it.
Yeah.
It looked like it. There was no possession up the gut. There was no effort at trying to maintain possession on the ground ball, and we finished the night with no shots on goal. Zero shots on goal for the entire night. We only finished the night with 3 shots in general.
The other longer-lasting news coming out tonight is that with the yellow card, Pop Diakite will miss this Saturday's matchup against Bethlehem. Dominic Goduro also on yellow card warning, but did not pick up a card tonight. I think one of the only Rowdies players I don't even recall getting whistled for a foul. Shockingly, somehow. Possibly.
If we were more interested in looking up those stats, we would find out real quickly. But anyways,
Atlanta United has just defeated Charleston Battery and we believe clinched a playoff spot for your Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Yeah, we're going to do the math on that, but we're pretty sure.
It was in the 3 things. Because I know Mike and I were talking about this last Saturday night about what the implications were.
I just hate backing into the playoffs. Like, I hate not...
Look, I'm not going to... There's still like 6
clinching.
games, 5 games left. I'm not calling it back in just yet.
I'm just saying clinching the spot without you actually winning the game just doesn't feel like clinching. Like, it just... Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like we can unclinch right now.
Yeah.
Like, for all we talk about, about the way they've played, this is the 4th time the Rowdies have ever made the playoffs? Because they made it the year before they won the title. They made it the year they won the title. They didn't make it again until it went to USL, and then they missed it last year and this year.
This would be
so
the 4th season.
Out of 10 seasons, we've made the playoffs in less than half. I'll take backing in at this point.
Well, especially considering the expectations at the beginning of the year were that we were going to be terrible. So
right, we had, and that I was thinking about that the other day. We literally had no clue going into game 1. We didn't know, and they're all nice guys. We had no clue if Neil could really coach this team that he put together. We had no idea if half of these players could play. Some guys like Tejada had never played professionally.
For that matter, we didn't know what Neil's system would be at the beginning of the year. Like, there was all sorts of it. So, like, I mean, our expectation at the beginning of the year was finish in 10th. Just get in.
Make the playoffs.
Just get in, and then we'll just build on it for next year.
And now
all of a sudden everybody's like, wow, we could if we had won tonight, we would have been tied for first place. And I'm sorry, but like we're not a first place team. It may be cool, don't get me wrong.
We would be in the Western Conference.
Like, we'd be in second in the Western Conference, sir.
Yeah, we'd have more points if we were in the Western Conference.
Well,
and we wouldn't have to secure any of them by throwing beer bottles either.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
Can I?
Where's our fans? Like,
First
of all, where are our fans? Hello. Why is nobody showing up to these games? I'll never understand this. But like,
did you just watch that game? That's why no one's showing up.
I hate you, Matt.
You hate me because I'm right.
You're so right on that one.
I'm going to ramble for 1 second. But it's not going to require a discussion. It's just going to be a statement.
Bum, bum, bum.
Story time with Uncle Matt. So did you read Phoenix's statement about the incident?
I did.
My favorite line is at the end where they said, and they're moving forward, they're going to go to plastic cups for future beer sales. So you're a team that hypes up Dollar Beer Night like 3 times a week, and you're handing out cans and bottles? That doesn't make any sense. Don't do that. All right.
Well, baby organizations that are just too nascent to understand what the hell they're doing. That makes sense.
I get it. It's the desert. It's a dry heat. You think it's gonna, boil some of it off before it boils over, but it just didn't happen. Also, don't let opposing fans in your section.
Yeah, there's all sorts of like craziness.
That's a bad idea.
Like everything about that was just embarrassing.
I say this as the guy who spent like the second half last year in the Charlotte section with Jack's Militia because it was me and Adam, and they were like, "Hey, come hang with us," and we're like, "All right."
Okay, so that was a joke that we didn't make in the about the Charlotte recap is the fact that Jack's Militia basically doesn't exist. All right, like the banner isn't even in front of the actual supporter section; it's like off to the side, and all I can think of is that that's the militia that fought in the Battle of Camden, and that's all I got for that.
And that's why we lost the battle.
Welcome,
not the game.
Welcome to the historical context.
Now come on.
The unused
do I get paid for this? Because this is my day job. I don't want to teach history right now. I'm drinking. All right, so let's go on. The other game that took place between now and the last episode was Saturday's 1-1 draw, dispiriting draw versus Atlanta United 2, who just did us a favor. It seems like at Al Lang.
Exactly. That is exactly how to sum up the last, 4 days.
And I'm just, is there really a breakdown of this? We got a goal back. We gave up an early goal, and that sucked.
We should have had a PK.
We should have had a PK.
I mean, that's for me, that's one of the biggest takeaways from that game. That should have been a 2-1 Rowdies lead at halftime.
Yeah.
And
at which point your substitutes are different, your strategy in the second half is different.
And I get...
And I dare say the result is different.
Yeah, and I get... the substitution choices that we made were fine, but it was very, very, very obvious. This was something I was saying to some of the people after the game on Saturday, was that Leo and Malik both looked just dead at the end of that game, because and we went back and I rewatched this and really tried to dive into the stats of why we couldn't break down Atlanta. Our outside wingers were they didn't do anything. Especially for the last 20 minutes of that game, they did virtually nothing. And I'm not trying to disparage them in some negative way, but it was just you could tell that they were physically exhausted.
A lot of these guys are in very, very near end of the season state right now.
And a lot of these guys have played a ton of minutes. And a lot of focus, especially in a row and especially recently. And, that kind of lack of rotation is concerning, but there was a lot of games where we weren't.
We have confirmed it via the USL's website. The Tampa Bay Rowdies and Nashville have also clinched playoff spots tonight.
We're going to playoffs. I'm telling you, I'm a pessimist.
We're hosting.
Dude.
We're hosting.
I'm a pessimist.
We're hosting,
and I can't get excited about this yet. I'm a pessimist. I'm now a pessimist again.
And they put you on TV.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. I don't get it. I don't deserve the.
We're being heckled by our future guest here in a minute.
I deserve it. It's okay.
All right, so
Atlanta. So that was one of the big takeaways to that game. Was that they were just invisible on the wings, and the problem is that we were still trying to force the ball out to the wings anyways.
yeah.
And that was part of the biggest issue, is that we were not passing it up the gut to try and generate offense through the middle of the field into the box on an Atlanta side, and that was a problem. We weren't taking shots from distance. That was a problem. I mean, you got to look at the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, the way I broke this down, I think we had, after Poku came onto the field, and we did the substitution with Tenari, we only had like 8 balls played into the box for like the rest of the night. And that's supposed to be the sub for your attacking midfielder. And then you switch out the strikers, and it's just like that. No, it's just not good enough. Because that's abandoning what started making the team good in the first place, which was attacking down the middle. And this mental switch that we've had in the last 3 games, where now everything has to be played out in the wings. We saw it again tonight with the Ottawa game, where it was just loft the ball to the corners and let somebody run onto it, and hopefully we can get across. And I'm sorry, but that's not good enough, especially if you want to actually do something in the playoffs.
Are you Willie Taggart now?
I deserve that.
I will say I do have something to enter from the good from upon reflection. Saturday night's draw as well. It happened after the game. It happened off the field. Neil Collins called the referee fat. I wish I had gotten the audio ready. He called for the league office to look into this, that the referee had to stop the game too many times just to catch his own breath.
I heard that, and that was the funniest thing on the planet to me. And also, we switched over to the St. Louis New York Red Bulls game, and St. Louis has now taken a 2-0 lead over the New York Red Bulls too. And may I point out, that's because St. Louis, my friend, is a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, they got an X by their name yet? Yeah,
St. Louis
we're in and they're not.
Is a playoff caliber team.
The only place they're going is MLS.
You accuse me of speaking things into existence. I am speaking this into existence and will beat this drum till I'm dead.
Look, the last thing we need is St. Louis in the playoffs. Have you seen how they chop their bagels up? That's an abomination, Steven.
Well, yes.
Shut your mouth.
Well, then we'll just have to make sure they come to us and not us go to them.
All right. Other notable results from around the league last weekend. Indy 2-0 over Ottawa. Birmingham dropped a 2-0 decision to your actual favorite team, St. Louis. Pittsburgh defeated Charleston 1-0. Charleston's gonna screw around and miss the playoffs.
Which is what we predicted.
That's the thing. St. Louis is not going to make the playoffs. Charleston's going to miss them.
Predicted that. We said that would be the team if anybody
don't complain
down.
about us backing into the playoffs, because St. Louis is going to trip and fall into the playoffs.
Because they're going to miss it. They're going to miss
Oh,
it.
now you're going to change your mind?
No, we said Charleston's going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, but I said that's St. Louis. St. Louis isn't going to make it. They're going to trip and fall into the playoffs.
Oh.
They're going to pass out at the bar and wake up in the back of a truck that says playoffs on it. That's the way it's going to be. And Nashville 1-0 win over Birmingham. Birmingham, I think I said it too. It'd be a shame if they had this 9-game unbeaten run to get into playoff contention and then just fell apart at the end. I didn't think it could happen, but it looks like it is going to happen. Other notable games coming up this week. Right now, St. Louis is leading New York 2-0. Birmingham plays Indy this week. Louisville and hosts Red Bull 2. Nashville and Pittsburgh, which is going to be more important for Pittsburgh than anything else. Also, Pittsburgh is a point or 2 points behind us right now. And Charleston will go and host North Carolina FC on the weekend. I posted the table as of like last night on there, and I believe it's kind of in flux right now. So let's skip over the regular. The points per game is a little off too, but we can give a vague idea at least. Maybe get an idea of where these, because in this one you see Charleston is in the points per game still, but I think St. Louis is too, and Birmingham's already fallen out in points per game, but it's really close. So as of last night, Steven, what was the points per game?
All right, so as of last night, obviously this is, like you said, this is a little different now. But Indy and New York Red Bulls are obviously still your 1-2, 2.07 and 2 flat. Tampa Bay Rowdies and Pittsburgh are tied. They're literally at a tie for 3 and 4 at 1.89.
Now, the Rowdies have dropped like 0.01 or 0.02 tonight,
dropped.
but not much.
They would have dropped. Nashville, who won last night.
I posted that after the Nashville win,
After
so
the
that's
Nashville
current.
win, so that's current. So they're at 1.86. So you're essentially at a 3-way tie.
Yeah.
For that spot, which is what makes the whole who's going to finish in the top 4 so worrying.
Us.
Louisville City is going to be at 1.68, so they come in at the 6th position. North Carolina at 1.62, and then you've got the battle for who's going to finish in the 8, 9, and 10 seeds. So you've got Ottawa at 1.44, St. Louis at 1.41.
Well, and Ottawa will have jumped up a little bit after tonight.
They're going to jump up a little bit. St. Louis.
I'm going to guess 1.46 maybe.
St. Louis has a lead in the 74th minute, so I'm assuming that they're going to jump up and wrap this game up. And
right.
So Charleston's currently at 1.3, which, of course, with their loss tonight, they dropped down on those points.
Right, and Birmingham's only, hundredths of points
point
behind
out
them, yeah.
Before tonight's results. So, yeah, I mean, that points per game table is going to fluctuate, especially when we update it here. And so, yeah, I mean, it's basically, it's going to be a dogfight in the last, 6-7 games of the season for multiple spots here as far as who's going to actually finish, because everybody's, stumbling right now.
Yeah.
Pretty much nobody is having any consistent results. I mean, St. Louis has been on a run, but they were so bad for so long that they're just trying to catch up on lost time.
Yeah, they're just trying to get back to treading water at that point.
On the flip side, Charleston just fell on their face, which is what we predicted. Birmingham had the crazy late surge, but they're still, again, they stumbled so hard for so long, it's hard for them to catch up into any of this. And then, of course, the top of the table, we knew there'd be a semi-decent matchup for who would finish top position. Not really a big deal, I don't think, to most people who actually finishes in number 1. It's all about finishing top 4, in which case that 4th spot's going to be a dogfight to the end because everybody keeps losing to random teams they shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, to an extent in the West too, but it's such a slog, especially in the East. You've got so much, you've got such a level of quality that these teams beat each other up for most of the year. I mean, the Rowdies are where they are, mostly still on the back of that 12, 13 game unbeaten start, and then managing not to lose too many in a row here or there. Like the important thing, you see teams go on some of these runs where they win a bunch or they go unbeaten in a bunch and they have some draws. You've got to be able to put at least one of those runs together during the year, it feels like. Indy's up into the top spot now in points per game, and where they had the 9-point week last week. They play.
Oh, I don't even remember.
I mean, that's just they pulled off a nice series of wins. You've got to have that ability in you at some point. You've got to have some kind of consistency where you can win or at least get points from some of these games. We didn't do it tonight, but we achieved the main goal for the season going into so far was to clinch a playoff spot. But honestly, anything outside the top 4 is going to be a disappointment. The way we've seen them play now.
But then again, when you start breaking down who we're beating, and we start looking at the fact that, again, when you take, this is something we talked about 2 weeks ago, right? If you take out the Red Bulls, Indy, Nashville, Pitt, and North Carolina, and if you take out those 5 teams, that's where the bulk of our losses are against the top of the table. We're just really good against the teams that are garbage.
Yeah, which that's been our one of our Achilles heels the last 2 seasons is we've played down to opponents and not gotten the results we should have from them.
Exactly.
We're showing that a little bit right now because you should have gotten a win against Atlanta. You should have at least gotten a draw against Ottawa.
And that was something we talked about even 3 or 4 weeks ago, was the fact that it's like if you're going to be a playoff team and make a playoff run, you're going to have to be able to dig yourself out of weird situations. So, like, the Gonzatti missed PK. That call.
Mm-hmm.
You, as a team, if you want to make a run in the playoffs, you have to overcome not getting that obvious call.
Yeah.
You're going to have to create your own luck. And that's the thing that
and you also have to finish your chances, like
Siage
has tonight with that essentially open net.
Yeah.
Sends it wide. You got to have the mental strength and the physical ability to cash those in when you have the opportunity.
Yep, and that's the thing is right now that's the thing that we haven't seen a lot of from this team because we tend to do well when we're playing from ahead.
Yeah.
And so we don't drop points very often, hardly at all, which is good. That's a good thing to be in. That's a good position to be in. But you're not going to just jump out to a 1 or 2-0 lead on every playoff game to win it. If you're going to go far, you got to be able to come back from adversity. And this team hasn't really needed to do that.
Right. And when they've had
when
they
had the opportunity, it doesn't happen.
Right.
At least very often.
Well, these games are done. We've got one ahead this weekend to talk about, and we're going to get there in a few minutes. But we do have a special guest because we believe in being the fair and balanced Rowdies podcast. We provided airtime recently to Ralph's Mob President, which, by the way, I want to point out, no one else has. I am wearing the Mob jersey, the 10th anniversary jersey, and I've got the Skyway scarf on. I'm bridging the divide here. And I'm going to give up the mic and the headset for a few minutes because we're going to bring on Ian, who is president of the Skyway Casuals, tailgate grill master extraordinaire, to talk about some stuff, this year and some ideas for next year too. So let me hop out of here, and I'm just going to drink and laugh at you guys for a while.
So yeah, while Ian gets set up here, just for clarification's purposes, I'm wearing the Mob shirt this year too. FYI. So for what it's worth here, not to like change the weirdness of this conversation, but you were like throwing it out there that somehow I was wearing something that like didn't count. Gosh.
Flip flops and jeans, not a good combo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
South Florida.
It's like 9:45 at night in Sarasota. You really think? I came out of work. I immediately walked out of work and went, I'm getting out of my shoes.
I get that.
And I have to wear jeans at work, so I wasn't changing my shorts. I didn't care.
All right. At least you came to Sarasota to watch the game with us.
Damn right I did.
So how are things?
Oh, no, things are good. So as president of Skyway Casuals for this year, and getting a chance to really endorse and really embrace that role as far as seeing the emergence of essentially what's been a second supporter group of sorts coming up into the team and into the fray of what the fan base is. What has been your observation for the season on the field so far? I mean, obviously you've got a pulse now with the group down here and hearing what they have to hear every day. And
right.
So what's been your pulse on how does Sarasota view this as far as this season? Especially in the context of what we were expecting or not knowing what to expect at the very beginning of the year.
Yeah, well, at the beginning of the year, we felt pretty good that Neil knew what he was doing. We felt confident in the players that he was bringing in, even though it happened late. And so, I'm sure you're aware, a lot of people are aware, that there was a wager placed in Vegas. So we're really hoping for a championship this year, to bring a big chunk of change home.
What were the odds again?
It was 50-1. And I say we, but there was a money man involved. And we placed a wager. My cousin lives in Reno. We put $200 on it. So if the Rowdies can sort things out, start playing a little better, learn to connect some passes, maybe play up the middle instead of trying to cross in. It's very Stuart Campbell-ish what's going on right now. A lot of crosses to nowhere right now. But if they can do all of that stuff, we'll bring home $10,000. So hopes are hopes.
See, now that's the kind of enthusiasm that this fan base needs, is getting the hookup with family relations and whatnot and friends out west to put actual money down.
Actual money, yep.
Get some real heart into this thing.
And to be
people really care about their money. So when there's money involved.
And to be quite honest, it was $200 just because my cousin went and placed the bet before I could tell him how much, because there was about $500 that wanted to be wagered on the whole deal. So we're confident. We're a confident bunch down here in Sarasota.
In all fairness, though, 50-1 odds for the Rowdies to win the championship seems steep. Like that seemed like a really
the year before.
like
I think our
51.
odds were much higher because we had the likes of Marcel
yeah,
Schaefer
yeah, yeah.
and Joe Cole, and we came out and flopped last year. So I think they were just the odds makers were probably pretty conservative considering we turned over
Everybody.
90% of our roster there.
Yep.
So I don't blame them for putting it at 50-1. But when Stephen Connell saw 50-1. We made things happen because that's like a no-brainer if you have confidence in your team and it's 50-1 to put something on it.
Yeah, no, and that was fantastic. I mean, you guys started tweeting that. I was totally jealous.
I mean,
I was like, that is amazing.
There was a group, a small conglomerate of people that bet on Leicester a few years ago at the beginning of the season, and they made like $500,000 bucks.
Yeah. Those guys.
It was crazy.
Yeah, those guys banked.
Exactly. So you never know.
So let's shift the conversation a little bit here. We'll go from on the field to off the field. What now, is this officially your first year in charge of Casuals? I mean, is it really is it kind of the first year officially as like a group
as an official 501?
Yeah.
Yes, this is our first year as an official 501. The idea came about in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
We really started getting the ball rolling in 2017. 2018, we started doing merchandise.
Yeah.
Getting a strong roster of people built up, and then this off season, we lumped it. We made the plunge, did the 501, tax exemption, all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
a lot of paperwork.
What has it been like being the president of a group that's really trying to, like I said, put a stamp in the stadium as far as a presence and.
For a bunch of us, it's always been about the brotherhood, sisterhood of the whole thing. I mean, we didn't set out to, take over for Ralph's Mob or do anything like that. We come to the Shamrock, we watch the away games. We all ended up tailgating together, and it seemed like a logical step to actually kind of make it official,
Mm-hmm. And in all fairness, I mean, I've been coming to Shamrock for almost 10 years myself, so I love this place. I absolutely love this place. So
absolutely.
And that's the important thing too is having that kind of like strong headquarters
Mm-hmm.
where
that's
doubt.
everything.
I
There
mean,
is
that's
no doubt.
literally everything. If you've got a place to call home where everybody just knows that's where you go, you're bound to make things happen.
Half the battle right there.
Exactly.
Absolutely half the battle.
Exactly. So enough about this year. Next year,
Okay.
there's tons of stuff happening next year.
There are tons of stuff next year.
happening next year. Of that, of course, if those of you that don't listen very often or maybe don't have season tickets right now and, just have missed this conversation from the last several weeks, the supporters are going to be moving. The team is going to be installing safe standing sections in the sections behind the goals. So, and this is something we've been talking about loosely as a group of supporters going back almost 7 or 8 years now. I mean, if we're being honest. One of the aspects to this move, though, is the hypothetical of naming the actual section itself and giving a nickname to the standing room area where the supporters are going to call home. Is there any ideas as far as names being thrown out there right now?
Put me on the spot. We haven't really talked about it much. We know that that's something that will probably, a good nickname is never self-given.
Yes.
So I'm not a fan of self-glossing.
Okay.
But, we have been thinking about it because it needs to be named something. But personally, I think we should be earned. And I'm hoping we earn, like, the asylum because we're so crazy back there. I like the ring of it.
There's not. Okay, I'm going to just stop you right there. There's not enough limbs. There's not enough limbs on game day to call it the asylum. We're not that crazy yet. I want it to be, but we're not quite there yet.
That's what we're all about, though. Supporters groups, building, growing, loving the game, giving back. That's what it's all about. So we're working our way that direction. We're constantly growing. We're trying. So hopefully, in the next 2 or 3 years, someone will, some sports writer will write something.
Yeah, right. Exactly, and hopefully that is the thing, because you're right. I mean, getting a nickname, you don't want to just christen something ahead of time because you don't know what the actual culture of that section is going to be yet. Because it's going to take a couple years to actually develop something like that. Yeah. So, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And I to a certain degree, I agree with it.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, I certainly understand that idea.
I want to see how it all works out. I'm super excited about it. Like, you have no idea how excited I am about safe standing. That was one of the topics I brought out during our supporters summit with the front office, was like, safe standing is a big deal because it changes the whole atmosphere in that section.
Yeah, moving behind the goal is one thing. Converting the sections to safe standing is a whole different ballgame. It really is.
And it doesn't, non-hardcore fans don't really get it until you're in there, in the safe standing, no place to sit down. You have to stand up. It forces you to be engaged. I can't wait. I am beyond stoked.
Yeah. And I hope everybody listening is too, because, I mean, we definitely want... The club is definitely trying to create a situation where everybody is closer to the field next year.
Makes sense.
That's what they're doing, and so they're forcing the change to a certain degree of not selling like general admission seating season tickets. There's even some rumor they might not sell most of those seats for most of the year, just to try and get people closer into the sections, closer to the field, and to make it look more full in those sections. They want people to get closer and get more involved. Not just with the game itself, but even with each other. Like, we want the fan base to become more of a family at large.
Apparently, Steven,
Oh, this background
you
music
may
is
have
fascinating.
Liga MX coming on because all of a sudden our music changed.
I'm okay with that. You know that.
I know that.
Considering Leon is having a fantastic apertura, I'm on cloud 9 right now.
Yeah, but the Pachuca Santos game last night went 2-2. That was a fun one to watch.
If you're listening to this and not watching Liga MX yet, you are missing out on crazy,
insanity,
amazing, awesome soccer. And I don't even.
I wouldn't call it awesome soccer. Okay, I wouldn't call it awesome soccer.
Entertaining.
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
It's almost like WWE mixed in a little bit, because if there's not 2 red cards and 7 goals, it was not a good game for Liga MX.
It's MLS combined with WWE
with some more skill.
with a little bit more skill.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, but you started talking about next year. Plans for next year above and beyond the supporter section. We're always trying to grow. Hopefully in this off season we will grow as a group as well, and we can start looking at doing more charity work. This year was our big jump to trying to theme every single tailgate to who we were playing, but we have so many southern teams, you can only do barbecue so many times.
Exactly.
I love barbecue. I love grilling, but there's only so many times you can have pulled pork. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's when we throw our that's when we throw the luau in there. And we're trying to do annual events that people can get excited about. Our bus trip, you're like 3 or 4 on our bus trip.
Yep.
This year we had almost an entirely packed bus, which was nice. That was fit. I think 52 of the 55 seats were taken.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
And to a home game. Who takes a bus to a home game?
Yeah, right.
We do.
Well, I mean, when you're like an hour away, you kind of have to.
Yeah, it's a good 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a good 45 minutes.
Now, obviously, you guys, and I know this because I was there. I helped out too, because I still help out quite a bit on this, on TIFOs. This was your guys' first real taste as to how the mob has been doing TIFOs for years now.
Right.
In our little sweatshop in downtown St. Pete.
Hey, that was 3 of the funnest nights I've had, man. That was awesome.
So the big thing is that we know that there are TIFOs now coming up back to back pretty much here. We're gonna have. I'm pretty sure they're planning one for the Indy game. They've got at least one going to be for a playoff game. Hopefully we host. So if you hear that, Rowdies, you better freaking host. Get into that 4 seed, please, because we have a TIFO that we're going to start, constructing soon, because you have to get all this ready to go weeks and weeks ahead of time.
Yep.
Are you guys coming up to help out on those?
I'm sure we will probably help with at least the playoff one.
Yeah.
We had way too much fun that night. Those couple nights doing those. The Godzilla Beasts of the East. That was a fun one. It was fun for everybody. Looking forward to it. This year we actually didn't do it this year. Derek has lent us his warehouse space, and we've done 2 pole painting parties.
Yes.
And just we had some idea. We still have some ideas. We have a list of ideas. Just it's been such a frenetic pace this year for some reason. With all of
life
the
gets
stuff
in the way.
we have to do.
Life gets in the way.
That,
I certainly feel that.
We never did a 2-pole painting party this year, but we plan on doing that again next year because there are plenty of ideas floating around that need to be taken care of.
Yes, it's funny. Seriously, life does get in the way. I've had a 2-pole idea all year that I don't have the tech or the artistry skills to actually pull it off, and it would be fun. It would be great, but that's where those 2-pole parties really become important. Is for the folks like me that that can't do it on their own.
And to be quite honest, I think next year 2-poles are going to be a much bigger thing than this year because you don't get any camera time to speak of
up in the section that we're in. Yeah, agreed. And I think that's going to be an important thing about having the section that we're in is it's going to give us more rail space. We don't have with banners. We don't have to worry about blocking people's views up in the section behind. I mean, there's even some thought here as far as a theory goes that if like the team say doesn't sell certain sections of the stadium next year, even for single game general having like big banners that the fans paint to cover those seats
instead of just tarping.
Instead of just random tarps that are team made, actually making like fan made banners that can cover all those sections, or at least maybe a couple of sections.
Or something to cover over the tarp. Yeah, that would be good.
Like, I mean, that would be something else that we could think of as far as it's another opportunity to express ourselves in that like TIFO artistic
From what I understood, the ability to still hoist TIFOs from the roof is still going to happen. It's just going to happen from the top of the dugout or the walkway instead of up in section 307.
I've heard that before. I've heard it too. I mean, there's going to be logistics that we're going to have to figure out with all that. I mean, it's
growing pains.
Exactly. It'll be weird. And I mean, if we turn out that doesn't necessarily work,
the best kind of weird.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work, we'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the glory of being, and this was something that I learned too when I was president of Rouse Mob back in 2017. It's like, guys, we don't, again, we don't have an established culture yet because we're 10 years old.
Right.
We're comparing ourselves to clubs that are 110 years old.
Exactly.
They've got culture for a reason because they've had decades and generations to build it.
Even if you talk about like Portland Timbers, they've been nonstop since the
years,
70s. Yeah, you know?
So like it for me, it never bothered me that like people were like, well, what is your tradition? What do you do? It's like, well, we don't really have one yet. Not because like we're not trying, but because it hasn't identified itself.
Just like nicknames.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to develop on its own. You can't force it.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate you joining in on the podcast.
Thanks for having
this
us.
week. It was always fun having you guys out, and it's especially awesome because this is gonna be the last one we do down here live. So we wanted to make sure, because I was going to come down here because I never miss a live podcast down here at Shamrock for a chance to see you guys.
We appreciate you coming down.
Yes.
One other thing for the people out there listening, that if you don't know, then Turn 5 tailgates where Skyway Casuals hold down the parking lot starting around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right before game time, we pack everything up and run inside to watch the game. Feel free to stop by, introduce yourselves, come check out some of the food. This coming week, we are playing Bethlehem, and Bethlehem, Pennsylvania is not exactly famous for food. So I believe we're doing cheesesteaks in the Philly, since they are a Philly farm club.
I have heard this rumor, and I cannot wait.
Yes. So we're doing cheesesteaks and chicken cheesesteaks, and if I can find people to make some Amish pies, maybe we'll do Amish pies. I mean, it is kind of Amish country. So.
It is.
So.
No, and in all seriousness, if you guys are listening to this, you don't get a chance to partake in tailgates very often. The Casuals run a great tailgate. Again, it's in Turn 5 where the racetrack is. When the racetrack cuts through the parking lot, that's where they hold up shop, and the food is always amazing.
Look for the flags.
The company is always amazing. It's definitely worth your time and effort to go and get there early enough to partake in the fun. So.
Absolutely. Introduce yourself. Everybody's very, 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 very informal, very friendly. So come by, hang out, drink some beers, eat some food.
In other words, you're saying that you're casual?
Exactly.
Well, Ian, thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
having
We
us.
appreciate you having on. All right, and so with that, we're going to go ahead and switch off, give Matt and Ian a chance to kind of hand the headphones and exchange seats and everything. Our, obviously, the one big thing that happened yesterday was, of course, that the Rowdies did a signing, and, of course, he played right away. And that was the fact that Ephraim Taku is now back on being the Rowdies. If you were watching the game tonight, you already know this. He was a player that it was one of the first, if not the first players that Neil brought in when he became head coach.
I think he was one of the,
He-
might have been the first, actually.
He, from what we understand a little bit of the situation at large, he wanted to be a Rowdy even last year, but we had already filled up kind of the roster by the time he kind of came back knocking on the door again. Because, I mean, life comes at you fast sometimes, and sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you were hoping, but he's wanted to be with Neil. And so when we watched the game this past weekend with Atlanta, it was very obvious that we didn't have really any depth on the outside mids. For whatever reason, Sean Barry just isn't quite working out as we were hoping. David Najem hasn't been around. So
Yeah, I saw he was in street clothes on Saturday.
Yep.
Out there again.
So, yeah, I mean, it was obvious that we needed depth on the outside wings. And so bringing in Taku addresses that exactly with a player that is been in good graces with Neil for a while now. And it's been somebody that they've had an eye on each other for obviously going back over a year now.
Right. I was just, I'm glad to have him back. I think it's, if nothing else, the roster freeze goes into effect on Friday, USL, so you might see teams make other moves. But to bring in a guy who's familiar with the coach, who's familiar with some of the players, and familiar with maybe not necessarily the system that we're playing this year, but the way that Neil wants the teams to play. To be able to get a guy like that, it's a pretty good pickup to have in there. My favorite thing was that they announced it on Tuesday so that we could call it #Taku Tuesday.
Taku Tuesday!
I don't know if we'll see any other. I will say if any other moves happen, I think it'll be because of other teams going for players and something happening. Can you see anybody else on this roster that you think may not be here by Friday?
That would be impossible to predict. I don't know of people that might be on the way out, outside of, say, somebody literally like an Najem.
The name that comes in my mind, just because we haven't seen him lately, I think he was on the bench tonight. What about Leon Taylor? Teams out there looking to get into a playoff spot might try to pick him up?
Depends on what you believe of Leon Taylor's playing ability of sorts. I don't know. I've heard things, but then again, we don't watch practice.
Yeah.
We don't get a chance to see these guys very often, away from literal game settings. So if you're a player like Leon Taylor, we don't really know much about him. We've only seen him in a couple of years, a handful of times.
I think so,
you
yeah.
know? And not for very many minutes. I think he's only played something like maybe 30 or 40 minutes all year this year. I mean, I'm pretty sure. So, it's hard to say. We don't know because we don't get that opportunity. We've all got, you and me have full-time jobs, during the week. It's not like we can't just, drop what we're doing and go to practice every week, even though we'd love to. Don't
It would
get me
be
wrong.
nice.
It'd be amazing. And be, a real beat writer of the club. I would love it. It'd be fun as heck, and it'd be quite the challenge. But, podcast isn't quite there to drop our day jobs.
No, but if someone's out there is interested and has the ability, give us a call.
Yeah,
we might have a
that would be awesome.
We might be able to make arrangements to have a beat writer covering practice.
I would say this. I would think somebody like David Najem has a better chance of being moved than a Leon Taylor, only because we've seen Najem play this year, and he played well.
Right.
And he played well. So
it just depends. I know I didn't get a chance to talk to him on Saturday, but I talked to him the last home game I was at, which wasn't the immediate. Might have been wasn't even the rain game. It was before that one, and he had said he was about 2 weeks away from coming back from injury.
Yeah.
And it's been way more than 2 weeks since then, and he's still been street clothes. So I don't know if was there a setback or is he just not making the 18.
In full disclosure, it's we don't know. We're just throwing a name out there just because. I mean, in some ways, just to cause discussion.
Right.
But it was just So we don't know anything. It's not like we know something like, oh, we're name dropping him on purpose, and it's nothing like that. We're just if somebody moves.
I didn't tell you about all the stuff I know.
Oh yeah,
which is nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly.
I was kind of curious, and then seeing the rotation tonight, and the rotation makes sense because you've got these 3 games in what 7 days, kind of squished together. But you saw some guys out there on the bench or in the 11 that haven't been there in a while, and it almost made me wonder if some guys were getting a turn in the window before the roster freeze kicks in on Friday.
I don't think it's that as much as it is just giving players nights off.
Yeah.
I honestly think that had more to do with it. It's a turf field. It's probably chilly up there right now. I bet it's not 98 degrees or whatever.
Well, and honestly, these days, leaving the country, it's not always guaranteed you can get back in.
Yeah. Yes, it's so true. I hate. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean. But no, I think it's a combination of everything, right?
Like I think so. There might be a little bit of the shop window factor, but I don't think it was the overwhelming thing.
I don't think that we're in a need to buy.
I don't think we're in the market. But if someone comes to us and says, "Hey, we're interested in so and so,"
there's always that.
I would maybe try and do a player for player move rather than just. I have a feeling that we went to Charlotte and said, hey, you guys are pretty much out of it. Can we have Taku back? And they were like, yeah, sure.
And I'm sure Lee's got phone calls coming to him. I'm sure that he's making phone calls out. And the fact is that it's like a 30-team league. And amateurs like you and me are just not going to know every player in every position and the depth to find out who's not getting minutes somewhere that might be beneficial to. We don't know. I mean, we're not going to we don't have the time to go that deep in the research.
You know whose phone might be ringing this week? I'm going to stir it up here in a second.
Okay, I'm ready.
How many goals did we score tonight?
0.
How many goals did we score on Saturday?
1.
Like, really, other than... we have not scored goals lately.
No, we scored 3 in Charlotte, like the week before that.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, we're
just not very consistently winning right now, that's all. I mean, the goals are coming, and we score a lot, and then we get shut out. Then we score a lot, and then we get shut out. Then we score a lot, and we get shut out, and then it's,
So, for the sake of conversation, do you put a call into Georgie?
Oh, stop it. Would you stop?
Hey, futsal season's over. You want to come keep in shape a little bit?
I have a hand against my forehead. I'm so embarrassed by the fact that you just said that.
You're almost tempted to order a beer at this point.
I would no. If I'm drinking, it's because of the Ottawa game tonight. That's why I would be drinking.
You want the pine cone water? All right. So let's wipe these last 2 games out. We've got Bethlehem coming to town on Saturday. They are. I'm trying to read this from way over here. Can you turn that to the side a little bit so I can see it?
And it needs to get updated.
Well, they're not playing. Did they play tonight?
Yeah. Yes, they did.
Who'd they play?
And that 7.
Oh, they played Loudon, right?
And that 7 is becoming an 8.
Did they win that one?
Yes, they did.
They are 8-14-6 overall, 4-6-3 away. Did they play away or at home tonight?
They were at home.
Okay, so 4-6-3 away, 2-2-2 in their last 6. I see what you did there. Lost to the Rowdies 2-1 in. Well, they didn't play it in Chester. They played it at like a local community college or something.
No, they played it in Bethlehem when we played them. We went to Bethlehem.
But it wasn't was it Goodman Field?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah, with the corner you have to run down and then run up. Yeah. So lost 2-1 to the Rowdies back on June 22nd. Leading scorer, and again, I don't know if any of this has changed because of tonight. Mumbagna with 6 goals. 5 assists for Zandy, 35 shots for their captain, James Chambers. Zandy with 27 chances. They've kept 5 clean sheets on the season, spread out among 3 goalkeepers. They've allowed 1.9 goals per game. It keeps feeling like these are games where we should score, and we haven't. Georgie could score. They've kept 48% possession, and this is the one that kind of jumped out to me, 10 goals outside the box. I don't know that we've played a team that scored that much outside the box in the last few games.
They're definitely a threat from distance. I don't know how much of that is aided by players that come down from what is the best MLS team in the Eastern Conference right now, and that is the Philadelphia Union.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Cincinnati, who just lost 2-0 to Atlanta. Diakite will be out this week with yellow card suspension. Orduro did not get a card tonight, so he'll be available for selection. We're at home. We're at Bethlehem. We've clinched the playoff spot. Like, there's a little bit of a weight off their chest. Like, you know, we knew it was coming. They were always going to clinch a spot. But still, the fact of getting it done is a little bit of a relief. Zandy had a goal tonight. James Chambers had a goal.
Well, let's explain the score first so that people know what we're talking about.
Yeah. All right, we're looking at
Bethlehem played tonight. We were alluding to that when we were running through the stats on them. They absolutely
against Lowdown United.
They destroyed Loudon. Loudon scored in the second minute, and then Bethlehem just took it to them. They got beat out the woodshed. It was a 5-2 final score. Bethlehem defeating Loudon.
A stoppage time penalty. Those are never controversial.
Yeah, right.
With a red card issued to a Loudon player.
Yeah. So the one thing that I was looking up the one guy that we were waiting for to come on for Loudon is not on that team yet. So one thing that we
hasn't
had
made the roster. The DC United kid?
Yeah, the DC United player that I had mentioned a couple weeks ago about maybe Loudon could potentially be a thorn in the side of teams late in the season if this guy started showing up, Assad. And
yeah.
And yeah, he has not played a minute, so I don't know what the deal is over there with that. So they're getting trounced right now, and that was kind of to be expected if that kid wasn't there, and if he was, then that was going to be an issue.
I mean,
so
they're nowhere in contention. How much development does he really get out of playing some of these games?
Exactly.
He's probably better off training with the MLS side, but and maybe working the way into their lineup.
So that's the thing. It's like when you look at Bethlehem playing a team like Loudon, Loudon is bad, so of course Bethlehem's going to have a chance to run up the score like this. So that's not that surprising. I think the thing that worries me is that it's a team that has a little bit of confidence in their belt now, going against a team that has not the greatest amounts of confidence for the last month and a half. And that's the thing is, like, because we have been so up and down in our performances that was the reason why I predicted tonight that Ottawa would win, because Ottawa had 4 losses in a row.
You predicted it because you hate the Rowdies.
You listen here. No. Ottawa had lost 4 games in a row, only scored 2 goals in those 4 games, and had allowed something like 10. So I figured Ottawa would win because we'd have a lot of squad rotation, and they would be really, really fighting to break that streak, and we suck on turf. So it just kind of figured combine all 3, and that makes sense. We're going to lose. Now, I said 2-1, but, you know.
Especially really crappy turf, apparently.
Really, really crappy turf.
And the amount of guys who were falling down.
And it's probably chilly up there, too, I bet. But anyways, Bethlehem coming to town. You're right. This is another game where in May, this would have just been a shoo-in for a victory.
Right.
Shoot.
And
we beat them in June. This is a game that we walked into in June, and we said we should beat these guys.
Like a 3 or 4-0 win you'd expect back then. Now?
Yeah, and that's the scary part is that it's maybe because that's the shift that we had where we were more concerned about playing defense at the beginning of the year compared to scoring goals, which, again, this was something that even Neil mentioned, was the fact that we took a tactical change halfway through the year where we started going from concentrating on defense to concentrating on offense, and now we're leaking goals. And now we're not – and that's the scary part is that, yes, we score in bursts, but we don't score consistently from one game to the next. And so this is going to be one of those situations where if we score first against Bethlehem, we're not going to lose.
Right.
But I can't go into this game anymore going, we're just going to win, because I think the odds of a draw are about 50-50 right now.
Is that your prediction? There's going to be a draw? Because I'm going to show you how quickly I can just walk right into predicting a win.
Show me, baby.
3-1.
No.
3-1 in front of a loud crowd.
You're gonna make me the bad guy. You're making me the bad guy on purpose. I am not. This is terrible.
My tactics have been discovered.
This is terrible of you. So I will go ahead and summon Cthulhu here, and I will say that the Rowdies,
the greater of two evils.
Yeah. Cthulhu will come out of the bay, and they will contribute to the fact that the Rowdies will not win this weekend. I think that this will be a 1-1 final score.
Cthulhu coming out of the bay needs to be a TIFO.
You're welcome.
I might have a name for the section now. All right. Well, before we get too Lovecraftian for the majority of the audience, we're gonna wrap this up tonight. Thank you to everybody who came out. Thank you to the Shamrock for food. Hoosier, we love you for tonight.
Ian, thank you for being on the show. We love you. We love everybody down here in Sarasota and the Skyway Casuals. You guys have been friends for years, and thank you very much for everything you do. And keep growing, keep fighting, and keep this thing moving and moving along. Not just in the context of Sarasota, but in the Bay Area as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
We need a big and strong supporter section. Next year, we're gonna have a great chance to keep it. Let's go. So thank you, Ian. We love you.
I'm gonna go way left field.
I love it.
Andrew Carlton. Thank you for scoring the goal that sent the Rowdies to the. Thank you for finally giving soccer fans somewhere something to cheer about. Through all your trials and tribulations, we appreciate you tonight.
The 2019 Freddie Adu Award goes to
Andrew Carlton, Atlanta United 2. Even though he's too good to be playing there, but he's not making the roster in big time. Thank you to Wolfface for the theme music. Thank you to Radio St. Pete for giving us a place to do this. Thank you to Shamrock for all the hospitality this year. This is our last Wednesday night game. We will not be here again until next season. I don't see Wednesday night playoff games, I don't believe. So this will be our last live show from The Rock this year.
Yeah, I don't see us finishing in 9th or 10th. I hope.
I bet you don't. Thank you to everyone who has made time to listen to us, whether live on Radio St. Pete or later on podcast. Please continue to share, subscribe, rate, and review. If you'd like to support the show on an ongoing basis, you can go to patreon.com/unusedSubsPod. And I'm going to turn this, we talked about this, I'm going to turn the executive producer bit into a reward, a perk for one of the levels. If you would like to be named as an executive producer, I'll update it and put it out there later on Twitter. If you'd also like to support the show, we are trying to blow out the rest of the scarves we have for this year, the Pride of the Bay scarf. It's up there on our Twitter. We will, for any. Now, I said last night on Twitter, any scarf sold in September, we would donate any profits, which would be works out to about $10 a scarf. We will donate that, and I'm going to extend it through October, through the rest of the regular season. Any scarf we sell, $10 will go to Go Gold to support their efforts and their. I was checking them out the other day. They're putting a lot of effort into creating teams for the different Relay for Life events, which is the big thing that I'm a supporter of. So $10 from each scarf will go straight to them. Well, once I get all of them collected, then I'll make a payment to them. I don't want to imply that it's going straight there when you hit pay. But if you're interested, find me at the Skyway Casuals tailgate on Saturday. Hit me up on Twitter, and I will give you the link to send money. 20 if you pick up from the stadium, or down here at Shamrock, 25 if you want to ship them. We'll do that too. And thank you to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, the official scarf supplier of MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Steven, I'll see you on Saturday.
I will see everybody as well, and thank you for listening. We do appreciate everybody that listens, whether it's on the live shows on location, or if you're listening to us on the podcast, as some would say, wherever you may be.
Or if you're like sitting at the bar staring at us wondering what the hell this is over here in the corner.
That's true.
Or to Annie, who just walked out and said and shouted at us on her way. We appreciate Annie too. All right, guys, thank you very much. We will see you Saturday at Al Lang, and we'll be back on next Wednesday. Playoffs, baby, playoffs. Playoffs? Yeah, we're talking. Okay, I'm not going to try and do that whole impression. You get the idea.
Go Rowdies. Let's wrap this sucker up. Come on, baby.
LFG.
The Rowdies were here, the Rowdies were there, they kicked the wall around. The Rowdies were here, the Rowdies were there, then they pulled the ground. Oh, the Rowdies, the Rowdies, the Rowdies are the kick in the grass.